Misconceptions are abundant in modern-day societies, and just like any discussable subject, Islam has misconceptions of its own. Before I start, I'd like to say that there are some misconceptions that may be downright silly while others have reason behind them. But nonetheless, a misconception is still a misconception and should be cleared by means of communication and understanding, not dogmatic arguments. As I was saying, misconceptions are easy to come across, and this is due to three factors. Number one is because false information these days are very persuading. Second is that false sources seem legitimate, and third is that if one has been oblivious to information for their entire life, they might be very gullible and convinced false information and logic. The religion of Islam is among one of these misapprehended subjects. Throughout the years, and mainly in the 21st century, Islam has been accused of depriving women of their rights, it has been accused of having barbaric punishments, and so on. I will cover these misconceptions and inshallah do justice to Islam. Number 1. Male and females are not equal in Islam. Number 2. Women are oppressed and are forced to wear hijab. Number 3. Islamic punishment is barbaric. Number 4. Islam was and is being spread by the sword. Number 5. Islamic slaughter is ruthless. Number 6. The Kaaba is an idol of prayer. The issue of males and females receiving equal rights and such has been around for as long as man became sophisticated, and in the span of time humans have been on earth. Only quite recently have women gained rights, thanks to Islam. The issue of males and females not being equal in Islam mainly revolves around the polygyny and the polyandry. Polygyny is the act of marrying more than one lady, and polyandry is the act of marrying more than one man. Islam prohibits the woman from marrying more than one man, but allows men to have 4 spouses. It is argued that Islam's disapproval of polyandry and approval of polygyny is not equality, and thus deems Islam as unjust between the genders. If there is no logical reason behind every prohibition, then it might as well not be there. And I will tell you the logical reason behind this prohibition. Muslim men hold the right to marry 4 women, but only if he can do justice between the 4 women. If he does not think he can, then he is advised to marry only once. Another reason is that if a man has 4 wives and he begets a child from each of his wives, there would be no trouble in recalling which mother had which child, and no child would be neglected, as she has their own mother to nurse them and raise them. Polyandry, on the other hand, sets up a family for disaster. If the female is married to more than one man, it would be difficult to recall which child belongs to which father, and the mother would have to take care of all of them. When a child is brought into the world, Allah puts love in the hearts of the parents, so that they will have enough affection in them for the life that they are about to kindle, that they are about to raise a child. This, however, is not presented in polyandry marriages, because the mother must raise each of the children, and the father more or less are not involved, as they are not sure which child belongs to them. If polygamy, the act of marrying more than one spouse, is frowned upon, it is only because people have forgotten their past. Monogamy did not originate from faith or past culture, rather it originated from parliament. Women are oppressed and are forced to wear the hijab. If you look back in the ages of ancient civilization, you will come across the fact that women were literally treated like dirt and were highly oppressed. Female infants were buried at birth simply because they were female. Women were punished for their husbands' faults. Islam gave women rights. Islam advised men to lower their gaze, which lowers the chance of unnecessary arousal in men and prevents molestation. Both men and women are advised to wear hijab. Men's hijab is minimally clothing themselves from the belly button to the knee. And for the women is covering all parts of the body except for the hands and face. If you look at both genders, males are the ones who are easily aroused, thus the inclination of the female hijab. But females are not easily aroused, therefore the simplicity of the men's hijab. Hijabs also protect the girl's modesty. Imagine the scenario. 2 identical twins walk down a street. One is wearing a proper hijab and the other is wearing something from the latest fashion trend and is somewhat revealing. Which one is more likely to get molested? It is quite obvious that the more revealing one is vulnerable. The hijab is designed to protect women against molestation. Islamic punishments are barbaric. There are specific crimes in Islam that call for capital punishment, such as murder, rape, and so on. As I mentioned before, rules and prohibitions might as well not exist or be followed if there are no logical reasons behind them. And it is human nature to seek logic behind punishments and prohibitions and rules. The death penalty is strictly to protect the public from criminals and anti-social elements. In the USA, there are roughly 2,000 rapes occurring each day and every day. Imagine mothers, grandmothers, sisters, cousins, wives, friends, and colleagues ranging from the age of puberty upwards being violently molested and violated, some even killed. For this crime, Islam prescribes death as a punishment for the perpetrator. This is so that the perpetrator is not around to commit this crime a second time, and it will also provide as an example for the public so that they do not commit the same crime. Studies show that 95% of rapists which are released from jail rape again. If Islamic law were followed, the second rape would have been prevented. Also, wearing the hijab lowers the risk of being raped. Islam was and is being spread by the sword. This misconception can be debunked so easily that it's quite silly. It was the Muslim tradesmen and merchants that brought about the most conversions all over Asia, Africa, and parts of Europe. Their behavior and etiquette attracted people to the religion and promoted it. They served as role models. If Islam was spread by the sword, then why are there 14 million Coptic Christians in Egypt today? Couldn't Muslims have slaughtered all who weren't Muslims and destroyed every building of worship that was not a masjid? They could have done so indeed, but Islam teaches its followers to deal with peace and also to allow others to believe in what they think is right. Take India as an example. After 1,000 years of Islamic rule, they could have forced everyone to convert and killed those who refused, although there are 800 million Hindus and other believers that are not Muslims in India. There have been no records of any Islamically related force going to Malaysia, Indonesia, or the Philippines, although their population has a high percentage of Muslims. It was the behavior of the Muslim merchants which attracted them to converting. Islamic slaughter is ruthless and cruel. Islam prescribes a certain method of animal slaughter before the food is permissible to consume. Firstly, the animal must be separated from its group. Secondly, they must be treated to the best foods of the animal's liking. And then they must be laid down facing the Kaaba. They must be caressed and comforted while the slaughterer recites Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, which translates to in the name of Allah, the gracious and the most merciful. The knife used to kill the animal must be extremely sharp. A blunt knife will cause the animal unbearable pain, therefore spoiling the meat because of all the chemicals sent to the pain receptors. The person slaughtering must be very strong and agile. The knife must quickly slice through the neck of the animal, severing every vein and nerve, including the jugular vein. The knife must then stop at the spinal cord. The reason for this is that the brain is still intact and communicates with the body. Therefore, the heart will still beat, which causes the blood to flood through the jugular vein, cleansing the body from any stagnant blood. This allows the meat to be stored for longer. If executed correctly, this process guarantees that the animal feels no pain whatsoever, and if doubts occur about the animal's kicking, that is because of oxygen deficiency and not pain. The Kaaba is an idol of prayer. Islam is the religion with the most emphasis on the condemnation of idolatry worship. When Muslims make tawaf around the Kaaba, circulate it, they say La ilaha illallah, meaning that there is no one worthy of worship than Allah. The Kaaba is not an idol of worship which Muslims pray. It is an object which unifies prayers of Muslims. If everyone prayed in a direction they pleased, it would be chaotic. Congregational prayers, which are recommended by the Prophet and loved by Allah, will not be possible, as everyone would be facing different directions. In the past, Imams used to stand atop the Kaaba and call to prayer. If the Kaaba were truly an Islamically worshipped idol, would they plant their feet atop of it?